France versus Australia, folks. 30 points to 29. Brutal if you're an Australian fan. Absolutely brutal. But great if you're a French fan. Maybe not great. Maybe you're disappointed if you're a French fan. You couldn't get this done by more. But the French run goes on. It's a 1-point win. We'll go through some key events and some stats. You guys can let us know your thoughts on the game. There's been some cracking ones this weekend. If you want to watch any of the autumn games and you are in the States, check out Flow Rugby. I'll chuck a link in the description. They've got all these games live or on demand, so you certainly want to catch up because there's been some good moments. This game, a lot of penalties. 6 penalties by the French, 5 by the Wallabies, but some great tries. Some absolute crackers. Wallabies get a scrum penalty early, but France get 2 penalties back. Alldritt winning a turnover, and very much one of those ones where it's a bit of a kicking duel, and whoever decides to run it first gets punished, and that was the Wallabies when Alldritt won a turnover penalty. So 6 points to 3 to the French, and then Atonio tackles Hooper off the ball to make it 6 points apiece. So kind of an arm wrestle early, and then the French have the first real relentless kind of attack in Wallabies territory when Ollivon is able to find a wee gap after about 15 phases between Hooper and Tupou. Looks like it's the first try of the game, but they ruled that one out for a double movement. Chance for the Wallabies to have a wee exit because they have been under the pump. Like, they held the French out for ages. But unfortunately for Bernard Foley, he misses touch. He has a pretty good game, but he does miss a couple of kicks. Although that one's maybe a blessing in disguise because that pretty much directly leads to what may be one of the best tries of the year, for sure. The Wallabies, with that mistouch, are pretty much back under the pump once again. And it seems pretty much inevitable that the French are going to score because the Wallabies are at 6s and 7s. They're holding on for grim death, but Foley somehow manages to get an aerial ball. He knows he's about to get slammed, so he tip passes it to, I think it was Fickou. And then they just gamble wide from their own 22. Fickou, I think, gets it to Campbell. Campbell to Wright, and Wright has got some wheels. Leaves Penaud behind and ends up setting up for Ketty down the other end of the field within like 30 seconds. The Wallabies. It is phenomenal. One of the best tries. It is an absolute classic. So Wallabies, from being under pressure down their own end, are up 13 points to 6. So crazy stuff. And Foley misses a penalty a few minutes later at the breakdown. Kind of a chance to really put the Wallabies ahead. They pay for it as well because the next 2 penalties go France's way. Ramos gets both of them. And it looks like the Wallabies are going to take a 1-point lead into halftime. But they find a way to kind of blow it. They've got ball in France's half with like 30 seconds to go before halftime. They managed to get turned over. I think it's Flament who gets that one. The French counter. Fickou puts a big kick through. Callaway manages to gather it, but he's under all kinds of pressure. Gets monstered at the breakdown. Has to release. The French turn him over. And then Marchand pretty much does what Ollivon did earlier and just manages to find a gap in that Wallabies line. He goes over. They had to check the grounding, but it's all good. 19 points to 13. The Wallabies going down at the break when it looks like they were going to be ahead. And it's a similar story with full time. Possession 60-40 to the home side at halftime. Territory's pretty even. Wallabies have had more clean breaks. They've made more meters, but the French have had more defenders beaten. 12 to 6 and 7 offloads to 1. So, yeah, very entertaining first half. Second half, the penalties continue. Offside, French. Foley kicks it 19-16. Wallabies do the same thing, so 22-16. Ramos also misses a penalty, so both kickers not perfect from the tee. Wallabies penalty count at that point starting to get a little bit high, but then right when they need it, the Wallabies get a penalty of their own. They opt for touch. Their maul, I think, goes pretty close, goes through a bunch of phases. The French are putting on a heap of pressure at the breakdown. They're competing for everything, but eventually the Wallabies get it wide, and Jock Campbell runs a beautiful line. He kind of keeps Moefana having to stay out on the wing, not to bite in, and he just kind of glides between the 2 French defenders. And yeah, man, it's a great try from the Wallabies and a great conversion from Foley from the sideline. Puts them in front 23-22. And then they get another penalty 65 minutes when the French guys goes off their feet at the breakdown. So 26-22. A kick is not going to do it for the French, but there's still plenty of time to play. There's still quarter of an hour. The French resume their kind of relentless attack. They win a penalty, and finally they change tack and decide to opt for a maul. They go for touch, they get advantage, they decide to go again. But when they're attacking the Wallabies line, Alldritt with his offload hits, I forget whose shoulder it was, hits his supporting line runner's shoulder. So they end up knocking it on, and the Wallabies end up like winning a turnover penalty not long later. So the Wallabies are able to exit, and it's looking like maybe, there's 10 minutes to go. The French are probably going to have to score a try. But they don't, because Valtini puts a pretty slice of the boot. I've never seen Valtini kick the ball before. He sliced off the side of his boot. Wallabies end up conceding a penalty, and the French kind of go back to their old style of kicking that penalty. There's still more than 5 minutes to go, so it's enough time to score 2 penalties. 26-25, although France, high tackle penalty pretty much after the restart. Reece Hodges come on. I'm not convinced he's going to kick this penalty because he's a bit of a scattergun. He's got a huge boot, but not accurate. But he does kick it. Credit to him. 29-25. Now I don't think the French have got time to kick 2 penalties. Before they did. They had time to get another one. But now they've got to score a try again. They do. They bloody do it. Not long later as well. It's like a minute maybe after the Wallabies have just scored that penalty. Jelly he's come on. He's getting over the advantage line pretty well. And then it's him that puts a really wide pass through to Penaud. But Penaud has got heaps of work to do. He manages to beat Wright and he manages to beat Campbell. One of them had to get him. Neither of them does. And it's 30 points to 29. The Wallabies are still not dead and buried. They have got a chance. They've got a line out. It's not straight. Then there's a scrum to finish off the game. It's a French feed. But the Wallabies managed to get a turnover before the clock, I think. Was it before the clock goes in the red, or did the French just get monstered? Either way, a ball spell out the side, didn't it? And Valtini managed to pounce on it. So, turnover ball for the Wallabies. They've got a chance to maybe get it done, but eventually the French win a penalty on D, and that is the game. So, somehow, man, the French I don't feel like they played their best, but they still managed to get a win. The Wallabies played pretty bloody well. I don't know. Do you feel happy as a Wallabies fan that you got that close to beating what's a very good French team? Or are you absolutely gutted that, like both halves, you were leading and then managed to somehow go into the sheds behind? Run meters 526 to 505. I think by far the most running I've seen this morning. I've only watched the Wales All Blacks game and South Africa Irish game. Possession, the French edge it 54-46. Territories even. Kicks from hand 36-30 is the most of the games I've seen this morning as well. I'm still yet to catch up on the Scotland and Italy games. Offload 16-2. That's crazy. Clean breaks 2 apiece. The Wallabies make 146 tackles to the French 92. Credit to the Wallabies defence. It held out pretty well. Penalties conceded as 10-11 with the French conceding 1 fewer. Ramos, 113 metres, 4 defenders beaten. Kicks most of his goals. Penaud, despite getting burned by Wright earlier on, 75 metres, 2 clean breaks, 6 defenders beaten. Ollivon, 12 from 13 tackles. Tom Wright, 111 metres, clean break, defender beaten, sets up that try despite missing that tackle on Penaud at the end. Hooper makes 16 tackles, although he does miss 4. Crazy, crazy stuff, folks. France have got South Africa next, which is looking pretty tasty. And the Italians await the Australians. Fun times, folks. I need to catch up on some more rugby, which I have not seen the results of. Samoa and Italy, and then Scotland and Fiji. So I'll get off to that now. You guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.